Welcome back to Form Check Friday. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to Form Check Friday. I'm Paul, that's Clint. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your submissions. As always, it looks like we got a great group. I just did 55 minutes of this video and my recording software crashed and deleted everything. So normally I would tell you I haven't seen any of these submissions, but I've seen pretty much all of them. I gave great, enthusiastic, animated feedback, and now I have to do it all again. So if I go a little quicker this time than usual, you'll know why, but we'll still cover all the details and we'll get you guys straightened out. So here we go again. Let's get into it. Okay, first guy, Dick. Dick here again. We've been working on Dick's squat and deadlift. Progress so far, keeping the chest up, looking straight down at the floor. Warm-ups utilizing pause squats. Good. What I've been working on this week, getting bent over straight away, stopping my knees from caving in on the ascent. Backed off the weight to 120 to practice this. This is the third set. Having done 2 at 100, still don't seem to be getting great hip drive, and my back was feeling a little precarious as I was initiating lean over. Am I going over far enough? Okay, Dick, let's do this again. Sorry, I'm like, I couldn't believe it. It just deleted it. First time that's happened. So, okay, Dick, let's do it. So, your stance is good, like looks decent width, toe angle's good, bars in the right place, and we're gonna watch your sets. Knee position's good, not too much hip drive because you started lifting your chest too soon on that one, but a little bit better hip drive. You're still getting out of your hips too early, so you're lifting your chest too soon. Same thing. You notice that as soon as you start coming up, you start standing up. You start raising your shoulders. That one, you hung on to it for a little bit longer. You hung on to that back angle. That's what we want. And that was probably the best one. So overall, this is a big improvement. Like, they look good. The only thing I would be yelling at you if I was standing right next to you while you were going through these sets would be to stay leaned over longer, okay? Now, because of your dimensions, you have a longer torso and shorter legs, so you're gonna be a little bit more vertical than horizontal. Totally fine, doesn't matter, it is what it is. So you're never gonna get real leaned over, but your back position looks good. Like, by the time you get down to the bottom, you are, you've established the correct back angle and you're leaning over. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change much from the halfway point to the bottom. It's pretty much the same, which means you're setting it appropriately. The key thing here is on the way up, if this is the angle, you need to maintain it longer before you start standing up. So right from the top, the first thing you do, lean over and shove your knees out, which you're doing a great job. And then from that point on, your job is to maintain that back angle all the way down and all the way up until you get to the point that you established it in the first place. And then you stand up, which should be higher up into the rep. So when you go down and then come up like an inch and then immediately start lifting your chest, that's gonna kill your hip drive. Stay leaned over, focus on driving your butt up and maintaining this angle. So lean over and stay leaned over longer so that you get higher up into the rep before you start standing up. And that will allow you to tap into your hips more, and you'll have more hip drive and you'll have more consistent power through the rep, okay? So that's really it. Everything else, the knees look good. They're going forward, they're staying forward, they're not sliding, they're out, they're not, there's only one rep where I think where they cave in and you kind of scoop back a little bit. That one they kind of, when they move in, you're gonna scoop back a tiny bit, but overall, like that one, everything looks good there. You're just getting out of your hips too soon and lifting your chest. Head looks good. Yeah. So the only other thing that I would mention is this upper back tightness, right? So you really, the way you're built, you really need to focus on arching the upper back, pulling the elbows together, jacking the elbows kind of down so you get this up, right? Like you're setting your back for a deadlift, and then don't let that go, right? Because you're kind of hunched already, and if you have set this upper back tight and arched, and then you sort of shift your focus to something else that you're working on, and you forget, it's going to loosen. And when it loosens, the bar is going to feel like it's rolling up on your neck a little bit, and that's going to prompt you to lift your chest too soon, right? Because you're going to feel it rolling up on your neck, and you're going to feel like it's going to go over your head, so you start to lift your chest to keep it on your back. You're still going to be leaned over, but if you have this arch position tight, you can be in any position and still have that bar secure on your back. So set that at the top, exaggerate it, and then no matter what angle your back is, you're still fighting for that arch. And then when you hit the bottom, just don't lift your chest. Just make it feel like you're going too high up before lifting your chest. And I promise you it'll be right. So everything else is good. Knees are much better. We need to see this at heavier weight, obviously, but you've got the form, the knees aren't sliding. The only issue really is that you're getting out of your hips too soon and lifting the chest. So just lean over and stay leaned over longer than you want to, and I think you'll be good to go. Okay? Very good, very big improvement. We're getting there. Let's keep going. All right, man. Thanks for the submission. Moving on. Q&A. Okay, Paul, with sprints for conditioning, did you mean fast pushing of the sled on your previous sprint post quoted below? What did I say? For sprints, I like 5 to 8 heavy sled pushes for about 30 yards with 90 seconds of rest, or intervals on the air bike, 5 to 8 rounds of 20 seconds, all out effort, then a minute 40 rest. Did you mean fast pushing of the sled on your previous post, or the walking upright method that Rip suggests? Is there a heart rate target to hit during the sprint? I had to load 215 on the sled, walking 40 feet on indoor turf, starting to get the heart rate to 150 to 160. I'm adding in sprints after the second lift on my intermediate A, and one outdoor running session on the weekend to spread out the stress. 28 years old, 209.58. Don't overthink this, or at least I don't overthink this. Just get out there and push the damn thing till you're breathing hard, okay? So I don't have a target. I don't wear a heart rate monitor or try and get my heart rate to a certain target. You can certainly do that. I just don't really care. You just put some weight on there, push the damn thing, and if the time you get to rep 8, you feel like you want to puke, that's good. Then add some weight. Maybe you do 5 or 6 the next time, add a rep every time, 7, 8. When you get to 8, add some more weight, and just keep doing that. But as long as you, by the end of the first and second rep won't feel that hard. By the time you get to the 8th rep, if you're really sucking wind, like, it's good. That's what you want. I know what you're talking about with Rip's method of pushing, where he kind of stands upright and walks it. I don't push it like that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure, Rip's usually right about stuff, so that's a good way to do it. I don't really sprint it. I just, head down, arms out, or a little bent, and then I just push the damn thing. Just push it back and forth. And I don't, when you try and be real explosive with it, you might end up pulling something or tearing Achilles tendon or something. So I don't get dynamic with it, but I don't push it it ends up becoming a walking kind of crawling pace anyway when you start to get fatigued. But I try and push it, at a moderate pace, and then towards the end, it's like, just move the damn thing any way you can. So the whole point of the conditioning work is to make your lifts feel easier. So I've said this before, but you have kind of 2 battles to fight when you're lifting or doing like a heavy set of 5, or even worse, a heavy set of 8, where can I lift the weight? Am I strong enough to lift this weight for 5 reps or 8 reps? And can I breathe? And the point of conditioning really is to take the second one off the table so that the breath doesn't become an issue, because sometimes when you can't catch your breath, or you feel like you're hyperventilating or suffocating, it psychs you out, and then you mistake it for being too weak to finish just because you can't breathe. if you incorporate some conditioning work and you get your cardiovascular fitness, if you improve that, then you don't really have to worry about the breathing part, and all you have to focus on is, are you strong enough to lift the weight? And this really becomes obvious when you work with sets of 8. So if you're using the advanced program in the book, there's a week with 8s in there. And that was one of the most dramatic examples of the usefulness of conditioning work. Was I was like dying at the end of a set of 8 and then like just couldn't breathe. And it's really distracting. I did one sled workout later that week, and the following time I had to do 8s, they were like so much easier, because that adaptation comes very quickly, and all of a sudden, like you don't have to worry so much about breathing, and you can just focus on lifting the weight. So, don't overthink it, or overthink it if you want. I don't care. As long as you once or twice a week, you get in there and you work yourself to the point that you're breathing really hard, and you just find some logical way of progressing that, whether it's adding another push and then adding weight and then going up in reps and stuff like that. Just as long as you're kind of over time increasing how hard it is, you're going to get the benefit of doing the conditioning work, and you don't really have to worry about the heart rate stuff. And so yeah, just get out there and do it, push the damn thing, don't overthink it, and you'll be fine. That's my take anyway. So, all right, thanks for the question. Hope that was useful. Let's move on. My man, Nate. Okay, squats have been stuck. This is my 6th attempt at 265 and finally got 5. I am consciously trying to keep midfoot, chest up, and not scoop my hips under. Thank you so much. So Nate, if you guys don't know, Nate posted a very heartfelt and what I found touching just summary of his experience running the program with the book. Nate and I worked together when he was at my gym, and for a couple weeks, and then he moved. And anyway, he had a battle with cancer and found the book and has been training again. And like the whole write-up was like, I mean, it was very moving for me. I don't know if it will be for you, but you can read it on the Reddit page. I think it's titled like a big thank you. And it's a great story and a sort of harrowing tale. And I'm glad he's back and lifting. And so let's take a look at this squat and see what's going on. So I think Nate does safety squats because of limited range of motion in the shoulders. It's all good. Let's check it out. So great depth. Knee position looks good. Toe angle looks good. Stance looks good. I mean, very deep. Like I wouldn't cut it off, but very convincing depth. Hip drive, nice little pop out of there. Back angle's pretty good, lifting the chest a little bit on that one. But again, this is a safety squat, so it's like you're going to be a little bit more vertical. Nice. All right, this is the big one. This is number 5. So he's been working on this for 6 weeks, and I mean, we know how it's going to go. But let's see. Good hip drive and just I mean, even grinding that out, like you didn't really lose position. So that was a good grind. I mean, these look fantastic. This is a good reason why, or example of the value of just repeating attempts at weights rather than just changing your program. Early in my career, I would, if I missed a squat or a rep on the squats, I would think like my program wasn't working. I need to switch to the Texas method. I need to do a reset. I need to gain more weight. And I would make all these tweaks to my program when really all I should have done is just go in and try it again. Maybe I had an off day. So that's why I always advocate at least 3 attempts at each weight before you start making programming adjustments, because anytime you make a tweak to your program or switch to a new program or do a reset, you're going to give weight up. You're going to take weight off the bar that you worked really hard to get on there. And often if you just take a couple more tries, it's going to go. So, Nate took 6 tries to get 5, but he got it, right? And that would still be faster than changing up his programming. I do the same thing now. If I have a 3 to 5 rep range on something, I just repeat it until I hit 5. And most of the time after sometimes it takes 4 or 5 tries, but I get it. But definitely don't make any changes to your programming with, without taking like 3 attempts, because, it's just a bad day. Something else is going on. You want to really make sure that it's a consistent problem. If you're missing, I'd say more than 5 times, even though Nate took another shot, you got to tweak something. You got to make an adjustment. But this is a great example because eventually he got it. So that's what we want. In terms of form, they look fantastic. I really don't have a lot of corrections here. You're everything, like I said, depth is great, back angle is great. And you're grinding it out. The one thing I will say, just to offer some advice and make this like give you some value here, is, and you may already be doing this, but make sure that between each rep, you're taking a moment to sort of go to your Zen place. In other words, a lot of guys go into their sets and they're worried about rep 5. And there's just this anxiety for the entire set, from the moment they touch the bar, that they're already thinking about whether or not they're going to get that 5th rep. And so their adrenaline is like pinned at 11 for the entire set. What we really want is for you to think of the time in between reps when you're locked out as sort of your safe space. The moment, the place you can go where you can kind of recompose yourself. And so we want like intensity, and then when you get to the top, calm. And then intensity, and then calm, and then intensity. So you have these like waves through the set, so you don't have to maintain this like amped up psych level for an entire set. So you get to the top, you lock out, you readjust everything, you retighten what needs to be retightened, you get your breath, and you kind of calm yourself down, and you prepare yourself for the next rep. So don't think about it like a set of 5. Think about it like 5 individual reps where you're giving each rep the attention, the same amount of attention. And what you'll find is if you approach it that way, where you have like a burst of effort and then some calm and then a burst, by the time you'll have more focus and more energy in the tank for that last rep versus just being amped the whole time. And then like, it's a Hail Mary on rep 5. Okay. So you might already have figured that out. If you haven't, it's one of the things that took like longer for me to learn, is that in between every rep, no matter how hard the rep was, I know if I get to the top, I can sort of zen out and calm myself down a little bit and then get ready for the next burst of effort. So other than that, these look fantastic. I mean, that looks good too. You might already be doing that. You're certainly not rushing. So hopefully you're thinking about what I'm talking about. I would like to see a low bar attempt, just so we can see if there's something going on with your shoulders. So feel free to post that up and maybe we can get that dialed in and get you back to low bar squatting. But thank you for the submission. Thank you for the write-up, and good to see you, and we'll keep going. All right, moving on. Jordan. Hey, coach, back from last week, still trying to learn low bar. 460 by 2, 365 for 4 sets of 5, or 5 sets of 4. Okay. Sent both because I actually got it better on the back offs. Yeah, of course, back offs are lighter. All right, let's see here. So, okay, I remember you. Yeah, so we were working on technique. We had a lot to fix last week, but let's see how these go. So this is the heavy one. See if I can kill the volume here. Okay. Okay, so a lot better than last week. Stance looks good. You're getting leaned over. Okay, so, all right, that was the set of 2. So first we'll start from the top down. Watch your chin, okay, particularly on the second rep. You're gonna notice that as soon as you hit the bottom, you start to lift your chin up. A little bit there, and then it's gonna be a lot more exaggerated on the next one. So watch your chin right here. See how it flicks up, and then you start lifting your chest, okay? So anytime you lift your chin, you're immediately gonna lift your chest. Anytime you lift your chest, you're gonna stop driving your hips. Okay, hips are where the power is. Hips have all the power. So you want to be in your hips, driving your ass up as long into the rep as you can, so that you're tapping into all that power. As soon as you lift your head and you lift your chest, everything's going to slow down, because you're not using your hips anymore. So you're losing power, or you're shutting off the power, right? So the deal here, just like the other guy we talked about, is you want to lean over, and you want to stay leaned over longer on the way up. Stay leaned over on the way up as long as you can. So at the top, you're here. The first thing you do is you're going to lean over and you're going to set this back angle. right? By the time you're halfway down, the angle of your back is set. And then from that point, you're just taking it down and then maintaining it all the way back up till you get to the point in the rep where you established it in the first place, and then you stand up. So lean over and stay leaned over longer, and then stand up. Hang on to that back angle. It'll give you more access to that power in your hips, which means you can't lift your chin. If you flick your chin, like I said, you're gonna lift your chest. So imagine you've got a tennis ball, and if you lift your chin, you're gonna drop the tennis ball. Don't drop the tennis ball. Okay, now, the big thing we gotta talk about here, aside from that, is the knee position. So watch your right knee here. See how it slides forward all the way down? Okay, you just keep your eye on the knee. And the whole way down, it's traveling this way, okay? That's not what's supposed to happen. If we watch it again and watch your hips, right? Like pay attention to your hips right at the start, you'll see them shoot back, right? And then the knees slide forward at the bottom. This one's more exaggerated, right? Your focus when you initiate the descent, your focus is on shoving your ass back, unlocking your hips and sitting back with your hips right away, that's an important part of the lift. It's the part that gets all the attention. Everybody's like, sit back when you squat, reach back with your hips when you squat. Yes, but equally as important is getting that knee position set first, okay? So it's not, if this is your knee and this is your hip, it's not just this, it's this, okay? It's not just hips go back, it's knees go forward and hips go back at the same time. That's how we balance over the middle of the foot, okay? So, and you gotta lean over, okay? So the first thing you do when you squat, it's like 3 things, okay? You lean over, and at the same time, your hips unlock and your knees go forward and out, okay? The knees need to go to the position that they are going to end up in at the bottom as soon as possible. So by the halfway point of the descent, your knees should be where it ends up at the bottom. Okay, so let's mark that and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna pause this thing when you hit the bottom and I'll mark it for you. Okay, so that's good enough. So, oh shoot. All right, let's try again. So knees at the bottom are there. Okay, so we are right at this hole right here. Looks like, where's my thing? Oh, there it is. Okay. So we're right about here. Okay. It's a crappy line, but like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're about the 5th hole right there. Okay. That's where your knee goes at the bottom. That's where it wants to be for you to be balanced. You have to put it there. Or if you don't put it there, it will slide there, which is what's happening. As it slides forward, on the way down, it then pulls you forward, right? And so now your movement is down and forward, right? Because you got this momentum carrying you forward because the knee is pulling. Instead, I want it at this position by the time you are halfway down in the squat, so it's set, okay? So let's look at what actually happens here. So if we go back and I pause it at about the halfway point, say there, that's even a little too late, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, this is, yeah, you're even down further than halfway. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now you can see you got this gap between your knee and the line. Okay, it's going to this line. It's going here, but you're not there yet, and you're more than halfway down. Okay, which means it will continue sliding forward to that point and pulling you forward. Which, okay, what we want instead is by this point and even a little higher, that knee is further forward. So that for the second half of the descent, you can focus on reaching back with the hips and stretching out those adductor muscles and creating that nice stretch reflex at the bottom. So from the top, okay, you're standing straight up and down. The first thing you're gonna do is lean over and shove your knees forward and out, okay? So don't think about your hips anymore right at the start of the rep. Just focus on knees first. That's the cue, knees first. Lean over, get your knees all the way forward and out. And it'll feel like the weight's going to your toes a little bit. Like as you aggressively shove the knees forward to that position over the toes, it'll feel like your weight's shifting to the balls of your feet a tiny bit. That's fine. So the first part is knees forward and out. And then once the knees are set there, then the second half of the rep is hips back and down. So knees forward and out, hips back and down. And at that point, it'll feel like you're gonna, so as you shove the knees forward and out, the weight goes to the balls of your feet a little bit. And then as at the halfway point, when you switch to the focus on sitting back and stretching out, reaching back with the hips, you'll feel the weight shift back to your heels a little bit, right? Ultimately, what we want is it stays over the middle of the foot the whole time. But it sometimes I tell my clients, like, think toes, heels. First half of the descent, toes, second half of the descent, back on the heels. And then the net changes, it just kind of like evens out right over the middle. Okay? So now make sure that when you lean over, or that when you start the rep, you don't just shove your knees forward and not lean over. Okay? You have to lean over and set the knees at the same time. Because if you push the knees forward and then lean over, the knees will pull back when you lean over. So those two things happen together. Lean over and the knees go forward at the same time. So that's a common mistake. People just stay upright and they do the knees, and then when they lean over, the knees come back. Not what we want, okay? So that's the deal. Head down, lean over, knees forward and out right away. And then the second half of the rep, once those knees are set, is you sit back into the bottom, get that bounce, and then stay leaned over longer, keep your head down, all the stuff we already talked about. So basically in a good squat, by the halfway point, you should not see your knees move at all. They should already be where they need to go. If you see them sliding all the way down, that means you didn't put them where they needed to be. And so everything's pulling you forward. So I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to look at this video. If you haven't, I may have already told you about this last week, but I have a video, let's get to the bottom of your squat, on my YouTube channel. It's where I walk you through all the stuff about the knee position. So take a look at that. There's some illustrations and demonstrations, and just focus on that a little bit more. All right, let's take a look at the back off set just to see if it's any different. Okay. All right, so this is a little bit lighter. Let's see what we're dealing with here. Oh, we got some volume. Okay, so knees are still sliding. You're doing a better job with the back angle, but you can see your chin still lifting. The big thing here, man, is you got to slow down between reps. Like, you're just diving right into the next rep. And I just talked about this in the previous post. Every rep gets the same amount of attention, okay? So when you get to the top, lock out, catch your breath, because some shit loosened up when you did the rep, right? There's no way you're as tight as you need to be after you finish one rep. And if you go right into the next rep, that means you didn't retighten everything, which means it's just going to get sloppier and sloppier if you don't take the time to reestablish the start position. So lock everything out at the top, catch your breath, find your Zen space, tighten up the things that need to be tightened, get yourself back into the correct position so that the next rep has the best shot of being identical to the right. So you should stop at the top of every rep. This is every exercise. Take the time to reset each rep, right? Think about it like 5 individual reps, not a set of 5, okay? And get yourself back into the right position before you go, or the whole thing's just going to get sloppier. Okay. So don't practice, even though they're light, do not practice wrong, because you're going to embed these movement patterns that carry over to your heavy sets where you can't afford to have any sloppiness. Okay. So practice perfectly so that you have perfect reps. All right. Big improvement. Very nice over the last time we checked you out. So keep up the great work, chin tucked, lean over, hip drive, set the knees, stay leaned over, slow down. Those are the big things, okay? Keep working on it, post another one, and we'll take a look. But thanks for the submission. You're doing a great job. Okay, moving on. Southern Beast. Hey, Paul, I was posting a squat video just to gain some insight. I know it needs some work. I can tell by watching afterwards. I haven't I haven't been active in here, so here's my chance. All right, well, welcome to the community. All right. Okay, so I think this is Jay. We've been talking a little bit online. Had a bad back tweak and is back to lifting, which is good. Congratulations. That's scary stuff. All right, let's take a look here and see what we're dealing with. All right, bar position looks good. You got a bent wrist because you're using a thumbs around grip. Totally fine, but it's okay. Stance looks a little narrow, but we'll see what's going on there. Okay, back angle is pretty good. Depth's a little high, and you're going forward. So if you watch your knees, you got the same problem as the last guy. Okay, so if you keep an eye on here, this knee, you see it move forward all the way down. It's traveling forward all the way down. Okay? Hip drive's good. You're lifting your chin on the way up. So if you haven't watched the form check I just did before you, if you skipped right to your own, I would go back and watch that guy's form check because you guys have the same problem. So the first is lifting the chin. That needs to stay tucked. The big one is knee slide, right? So I can do the same thing that we did with the last guy, which is pause your, so if we look at where your knees end up at the bottom of the rep, I'll mark it on the safety if I can time it correctly. All right, so you're basically at like kind of in between this R and I. That's where your knees want to be at the bottom. That's the position that they need to be in where you feel most balanced. Now, if we go back, and let me see if I can stop you about the halfway point. So we'll call it maybe right there. All right, so you're about halfway down right here. Between the R and the I don't know if you can see this, but you've got a big gap here. There's some distance between your knee, which means you didn't get it far enough forward right away. And what's going to happen is it's going to keep sliding until it gets to the position that it wants to be in. So your knees will travel forward all the way down, which is why you're having a hard time hitting depth, right? So we think about, if we go to the bottom, that's your depth. You're close, but if I dropped a marble on your thigh, I want it to roll back to your hip, and this one's going to roll towards your knee because you're not finishing. What you need to do from this point right here is you need like 2 inches more of sitting your ass back, reaching back with your hips and down like you're trying to stamp it to the rubber. That last little, you're like here, we need this. We need it to get here. And it can't because your knees are pulling you forward. So you feel like you're getting low enough or you're getting lower, but what's actually happening is you're pulling forward. So if you think about, if this is, I'm gonna do this backwards. If this is like your hip, right? You're standing up at the top. As you start to squat down and this is your knee, we want to end up in a position kind of like this. But you're getting to about, this is really awkward. You're getting to about here and then the knee pulls you forward. So even though your whole body is getting lower, this angle never drops below the knee, right? Because you're just collapsing forward because the knees are pulling you forward. So you need to do the same thing as the last guy, which is lean over right away and shove your knees forward and out, further forward and out, so that you feel the weight go to your toes a little bit, right? So lean over, knees go forward and out, and then once they're there, they stop and they never move again. By the halfway point in the squat, you should not see your knees move at all because they're already where they need to be. So that second half of the descent, right, when you're like right about here, so knees should be, further forward, and then now you're thinking about hips back and down. You've already set the knees, so now it's just a matter of reaching back with the hips, stretching out the adductors, getting depth, which you'll be able to hit now. And at this point, you'll feel the weight shift back to your heels a little bit. So the first part, when you lean over and shove your knees forward, is weight to the toes. And then as you, at the halfway point, when you start sitting back and reaching back, it's going to, the weight will shift back to the heels. Again, the goal is that it's actually just middle the whole time, but it helps to think about toes, heels, toes. Now I'm only talking about the descent. Toes first, then heels. Toes first, then heels, okay? Again, for you, like I just mentioned, watch this video. Let's get to the bottom of your squat. On my Horn Strength YouTube channel, it explains this whole thing in detail. The other thing I would suggest, like I suggest now every week, is watch this video from my man Steve at Brussels Barbell, Benefits of Pause Squatting. You should be incorporating pause squats, which is just a squat where you pause for 3 seconds, 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, and come back up. And you're gonna do this as a warm up to your, whenever you squat. So empty bar and maybe the first set with like your lightest warm-up weight. You go down to the bottom and you count to 3, and in those 3 seconds, you're trying to feel the correct bottom position. What does balance feel like when you're down there correctly? So if you go down to the bottom and you start to count to 3 and you realize, hey man, all my weight is on the balls of my feet. You have 3 seconds, shift back, feel the balance, and then come back up. Or, hey, I'm at the bottom and my knees caved in. Shove them back out, feel it, and then come back up. So Steve does a great job explaining it. I've explained it a million times on the YouTube channel. So watch this video, but pause squats teach you how to get to what the correct bottom position feels like. I do this before I squat every time, just as a reminder. Okay, this is balance. This is what balance feels like. This is depth. And then it just carries over into your, once you get into your heavier warm-ups, you can go back to, not pausing, but I would incorporate them every workout because it will help you feel the correct bottom position and really ingrain that sensation of balance into your head. Okay. So watch that, watch the other video, focus on the knees, focus on sitting back, keep that chin tucked. And I think your stance might be a little narrow, but maybe, and your toe angle looks a little aggressive. So what I would do is leave your toes where they are and just turn your heels out like a little bit. So there's a little more space between the heels. Not a big deal. I mean, but like everything these actually look pretty good, man. You've got a few minor, very common issues that most lifters have if they're not told. Everybody's told to reach back with the hips. No one is told to put their knees forward, at least not traditionally. So it's a big part of it. Okay. So work on that stuff. And I mean, man, you're doing great. And I'm glad you're back into the gym. I think we have some time to check the next one, which is your deadlift. And I know that I think you tweaked your back on a deadlift. So kudos to you for having the balls to get back under the bar and get back to deadlifting. And I know those things are scary. I just went through one. Yours sounds like it lasted a lot longer. So let's take a look and, watch your deadlift, see what's going on. All right. That's pretty clean. Very good. Very good. Oh, you even made the correction I was going to tell you. Excellent reps, man. You did it again. Okay, so the one common error that a lot of lifters have with the deadlift is they do the first rep correctly and then they put the bar down a little bit in front of the middle of their foot, right? It's very common to put it, that's why their plates are round, so you can roll the bar back. But rather than do that, they just squat down lower and they lower their hips and the shins go forward to touch the bar. And so over the course of 5 reps, they're going from a hip position up here to more of a squat. It just, the whole thing creeps forward over 5 reps. The right thing to do before every rep, and you're actually doing it, is when you set the bar down, the first thing you do is you make sure your hips are high enough. You push them up until you feel the tension, and then you roll the bar back to your shins rather than bring your shins to the bar. You get your hips up and you pull the bar back to your shins so that you're in the right pulling position. And I think it was the 3rd rep where you actually pop your hips up a little bit, which is the only correction I would have given you in this set. Let me see if I can point it. I think it's the third rep and maybe the fourth or last one. So the little low right there, you know, so you could see your hips. You start out with the bar a little bit too far in front of the middle of your foot. But then I think it's this rep right here. You pop, see, you just popped your hips up a little bit before you pulled it. And you're going to do it on the last one, I think, too. Yeah, you could just see you're pushing your butt up and getting some tension on those hamstrings before you pull. And when your hips are in the right place, if you watch your rep, as soon as you start pushing and trying to pick the bar up off the ground, the back and the hips and shoulders will move at the same time. And the plates will come up off the ground. If your butt's too low, because you did what I talked about earlier, where you're squatting to the bar, the first thing that will happen when you initiate the pull is your butt will come up a couple inches and then the plates will come up off the ground. And that's just extra movement that we don't want. So the fact that you're getting your ass up first means as soon as you start trying, the weights are going to come up off the ground. So excellent set. I mean, like, these are fantastic, man. So more weight on the bar, keep going. And yeah, thanks for posting. Like, very good job. I'm impressed. And after what you went through, it's brave to get back at, you know, start deadlifting again. So good job. All right. We got one more. And here we go. Jen, I've been working on not scooping my squats by keeping my chest up and knees out. This is 175. All right, back to Jen's cool ass home gym with the giant American flag. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's watch this. Okay. Ooh. I mean, Jen has a good squat. All right, so you got a little bit of head movement, like lifting. You can see your hair kind of kicking back on a lot of these. There's also this little weird hesitation where you kind of like right. Yeah, I almost paused it. So like right here, this looks good. This position that you have, like, all I would want here is just for you to take your breath and hold it. But you actually have a little like jerking thing where you kind of like, you like do a little jerk and then you immediately start the rep, and that's going to throw your movement off. So like that, there's like a little hesitation there where it looks like you let your wrists bend a little bit and maybe pull your elbows down. It's almost like a little tick. Like you have your breath, and then there's that little jerk thing where as you start to go, you kind of try and tighten up even more. I'm nitpicking with you as always, but all I would want you to, like, this right here looks great. So all I want you to do from here, within your wrists look good, is just take a breath and hold it. Don't worry about like you're arched enough here. So you just want to maintain this position right here. So just take your breath and squeeze, but no, you don't need to do that little jerking thing, because as soon as you do that, you start moving and you're almost like there's going to be some weird momentum that could screw with your balance and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like this last little bit trying to arch. So I would you don't really need to arch anymore. So just be aware of that little thing and just take a breath and hold it, and then just lean over. Don't worry about like, you know, moving any elbows around or anything like that. Or if you want to get tighter, do it and then hold it, right? So take a breath, arch up, hold it for a second, and then start the rep just by leaning over. But this last minute, like you're here and then you're like, bing, and then you go. It's going to throw you off. So if we can get rid of that, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but if we can get rid of that and just have you get real tight, then pause, and then the only movement is leaning over. There's no like jerking anything around. That would be ideal. Okay. Now, These look real good. Let's see the knees, how they work. Yeah, you're getting a little bounce off your knee. Let's see if it's on all the reps or just the last one. No, that was a good one. Yeah, also good. Yeah. I mean, you just watch the hip drive and the back angle a little more. Yeah, you do. I mean, even on the last rep, you're doing a real good job hanging at. Okay, I came right. You can see you're kind of lifting your chest a little too soon. So the knees look good. The back angle looks good. I mean, it is moving back a little bit. I'm not worried about it. Yeah. Oh, I mean, that was a good one. Overall, these are great. Yeah, this is going to be a lame one, but the only thing that I'm really noticing is like when you start to grind, you start to lift your head up. Okay, and that's very common. So you can see that your hair kind of goes back every time. I don't want to see any head movement at all. And now that I just said that, it like went away. Yeah, it's very minimal. Like it's kind of like right as you get to the bottom, you're doing that thing where you're trying to arch a little bit more at the bottom, right? And so that's why I see the back of your head kind of coming up, because as you get to the bottom position, you're trying to just like almost retighten your arch that maybe you let go when you did that little jerk thing and leaned over. And so you're trying to reestablish it at the bottom, and then your head kicks back like a few inches above the bottom. Ideally, like I always say, you want to get as tight as you can before you start the rep. So all of that arching, like this segment from here to here, right? This whole back, like none of that should move. It just goes from vertical to horizontal, vertical to horizontal. It doesn't go from vertical to horizontal and then like it arches and tightens up more, because that already happened before you started the rep. So I think what I would do in your case is at the top, reorder what you're doing so that you take your breath and you do whatever tightening thing you want to do. And then you take a little beat, and then it's just this. It's just leaning over. No more tightening, okay? Keep everything tight. Don't let anything get loose, but no additional arching or anything. Just lean over and worry about knees out and hips back and maintaining that position with the head down, right? And you're just focused on knees out and hips. Don't focus on trying to arch harder at the bottom, because again, that's it's going to make you do things that are going to move your bar path around. So you want to just be like a board here that just hinges over, and then like it hinges over at the top, and then it's just perfectly constant, little bit of hip drive, locks back in all the way up, and then when you get towards the top, you stand up. Okay? I'm going to do one more run through this just because like I'm really reaching here for stuff to correct you on. Yeah, I mean, these are just solid reps. And the reason you're usually when people lift their head, it's because they're dumping the bar up higher on their neck. And they're trying to prevent it from rolling up by lifting their head. I think what may just make this all go away is I don't know exactly where you're looking because this plate is blocking me. But if you can put your gaze like 6 inches in front of your toes and just look almost straight down, just a few inches in front of your toes, and just keep your eyes like almost looking straight down, I think all this stuff's going to go away and it's just going to be perfect. So you can take one of your fractional plates and put it like literally in the middle of your feet, right in front of the toes. And I think you're going to have, like, I think if you just stare at that the whole time, it's going to fix everything that I'm complaining about. So try it. Overall, very good. The shifting is a lot better. I mean, just you're killing it. So keep up the good work, and post another video of something else. We'll keep going. Love seeing the flag and all your awesome knitting. That's my girlfriend. Just a side note, my girlfriend's actually getting into knitting and is working on this like blanket, and like it's, you know, she's getting there, but like, and then all of a sudden I'm like, look, Jen posted this like multicolored rainbow sweater that she knitted. Just like, it's how's that scarf coming along? And then she gets mad at me. So anyway, yeah. All right, guys, we got to the end of round 2, and I'm going to stop this video before it shuts off on me again and I lose everything. But thank you, as always, for your participation. And I hope this stuff was useful. And we will keep going. And I'll see you next week for another Form Check Friday. Bye, guys.